Hello and welcome to today's episode of Platinum Talks Wealth. Emmy-nominated journalist Jennifer Rogers-Markwell changed gears in her television career when she realized the need to help women make sense of investing. She regularly hosts educational workshops to empower women and others to take charge of their financial future. Now, join your host, Platinum Wealth Management President Jennifer Rogers-Markwell, as she leads us into the world of money memories, money infidelities, and how these can mold our relationship with our personal finances as adults. Let's dive into today's episode.
Hi, it's Jennifer Rogers-Markwell, and you're joining us on the Platinum Talks Wealth podcast. Today, we're joined by Maya Gutierrez. Hopefully, I'm saying your name right. Who is a fellow podcaster in the universe and, has some great things to share. Well, Maya, thanks so much for joining us, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. So my name is Maya. I just launched my Fearlessly Divine podcast. I'm very excited to do it. The mission of my podcast is to create a community of women that will support and uplift each other to fearlessly live their best lives, essentially. As women, I think we feel the stress of wanting to show up for our families, wanting to be the career woman, kind of feeling like we have to have it all together. I think sometimes our self-care slips through the cracks, and just kind of prioritizing ourselves slips through the cracks. So I think in community, we can remind each other of the importance of that, and inspire one another to really chase after our dreams, live our best lives, whatever that means for you. It's different for everyone.
You said something that definitely resonated with me. I feel like on the outside, people put forth a certain persona, right? Like you're running, you've got it together. Oh, that person just knows it, right? They have it together. They're so put together the whole time with their business, personally, everything. And then when you look underneath a little bit, like they're kind of a hot mess. Right? Because they're sharing everything that they have, every ounce of their being. And then there's things that are dropping behind the scenes. Like that one shoe is kind of falling. You're like, oh, do I need, to take better care of myself? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Am I running hard in these directions? Yes. And I'm fantastic, but I'm not doing so fantastic back here.
Yeah. I mean, we're all only human, right? None of us is perfect. Imperfection is kind of the name of the game as human beings. So we all need support, right? And it's like, how beautiful would it be if we can be authentic with one another and reach out for support wherever we need it?
I think that comes into the conversation of just being really raw and really vulnerable, quite frankly. And I think in our day and age, sometimes that's hard to do.
Totally. I mean, I'm not the biggest social media person, but and social media has been around for quite a while now. Even back, say like 10 years ago or so, I made the decision to consciously leave social media for the sake of my mental health, because it really just got into this kind of like comparison and like putting that best, obviously everybody's putting their best foot forward, and it's not a crime to put your best foot forward. But for me, just speaking from my own perspective, I was not in a space where I wanted to see everybody's best foot coming forward, because I felt like I had none of my life together. I mean, you could even say that I'm going through that kind of period in my life again now, like nothing in my life is together. But I guess now with like a little bit of like, I guess being a little older, a little wiser, I think I'm coming at it differently, and even using social media differently, like really using social media as a tool, and what it, I guess, meant to do in the first place, to connect with one another, to find support with like-minded women, like-minded individuals, rather than that kind of competitive feel. Yeah.
And I'm guilty of loving, the puppies and the kitties and the babies as well. Like I like the drama-free zone myself, right? Yeah. Where it's possible. However, I feel like, a safe space, I think, is so important. And there's not a lot of that out there. I mean, not that it's all, bad by any means on social media. I think it has a place and it connects people. It does. But like what you're sharing is more of a mental place where people can have that safe space to be truly who they are.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, we deserve that, right? Like we deserve to live a life where we're not pretending, acting, we should be always in alignment with who our true selves really, really are.
And I feel like that is, I mean, kind of back to you're evolving all the time, right?
Hmm.
Myself in my, teens was clearly different than myself in my 20s, than myself
Totally.
in my 30s, and not to date myself, but also myself in my 40s, right? I feel like I have evolved from such a different person. I look back and I'm like, oh, dang, like some of the things like that you choose, well, for me, that I've chosen to kind of go through or do, I'm like, oh gosh, my 40-year-old self would never do that. Like now I'm like, gosh, it's 7, 8 o'clock. It is bedtime. I have no business, like I have no business wanting to really, go out like I did when I was younger by any means. And I find more kind of security and respite and just like kind of relaxing and having some downtime where I can. So
Yeah.
clearly I think we evolved to a different place. And so when you were saying that you're evolving too, I find that fascinating. That's great because I think we always are.
Yeah. Yeah. We all always are. And, I think we also have to be mindful about like checking in with ourselves periodically, because I think in our society today it's really so easy to just go on autopilot, right? Get up,
Yeah.
go to work, the kids school,
Yeah.
lunch, dinner, bedtime, do it, rinse and repeat, do it all again, that you're just kind of stuck in the matrix or whatever. And it's really, we were talking about self-care earlier, and it's really just important to just give yourself that space, that time, and whatever that looks like for you. Like, I'm not going to preach to anybody, you should meditate or you should go on long walks. Like, it's different for everybody, right? Like, I am not the best person. Like, meditation practice is so hard for me.
It's
uh
tough.
it's
It's
so
tough.
hard,
Yeah.
but I love to go on a walk in the park, and that's where I do feel kind of connected more so with, the universe, a higher power, whatever you want to call it. And I feel like I get like, these messages come through me in a way that somebody who meditates might, but I can't sit still for 5, 10, 20 minutes.
And interesting that you say that. Have you ever done a walking meditation?
I've heard of those. I haven't though. I mean, I've done like my own version of a walking meditation, but not
Yeah.
like a guided, like,
No, like your own version. I mean, I wonder if
yeah,
that's kind of what you're falling into now with your walking. Like that
yeah.
sounds fantastic.
I think it is. I think, yeah, it's just it's what I do. It's what I enjoy, because I love being in nature, and I just have only recently learned that about myself. Like, I think it's been true and present of me for a long time. Um, but when I'm stuck kind of on the go, on the go, on the go, on the go, I didn't always make time to get outside. Whereas now I realize that I have to prioritize for that for myself.
Love that. You said something a little bit earlier about how we just are on this autopilot. Right.
Hmm.
And I feel like for me personally, when I get stuck kind of in that realm, I'm not doing a lot of reflecting or betterment of myself just because you're running, right? And you're running and you're trying to keep up and take care of everything. One of the things that I find interesting too is when people take that time and kind of pull back a little bit, you realize why you do the things you do many times are tied to something in your childhood or a memory that you
Hmm.
have, much like, money memories.
Right.
So a money memory of like, hey, I act or I treat money a certain way, or I believe money is a tool or whatever that is in your life now as an adult, maybe because of a memory that you encountered as a child and you didn't even realize that seed was planted and that created your relationship now.
Yeah.
So when it comes to money memories, what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah. I have some funny money memories. When I was very young, well, actually, for most of my childhood, my dad worked for Bank of America, but he worked as like a computer programmer. So I couldn't really explain to you what his job was. I know that when like the year 2000 came, he worked a lot of late nights because his job was to like reprogram like all like the computer programs, I guess, were all set to 2-digit years, and they needed to change it to 4-digit because it was going to go back to 00, and the computers were going to think it was 1900 and everything was going to crash, remember?
Yes, yes, that was a big deal, right? People were so nervous about
The
that. And they're like, oh
Y2k.
gosh. Yeah, yeah.
So that was my dad's job. But even earlier than that, I didn't understand his job, and I just knew he worked at the bank. And being like a 4-year-old thinking that your dad works at the bank, I was just thought, we have unlimited money, because the bank is where you go to get money. So I just thought my dad works at the bank, like we can have money whenever we want. So that was my kind of like my earliest memories of money, or what I thought perceived money as. I think I didn't grow up either wealthy or poor. I just thought, we were just fine. We had everything we needed, roof over our heads, food on the table, clothes on our backs, all of the things.
Mhm.
Um, we didn't have a lot of extras. And both my parents, I could say, probably grew up in poverty. They grew up, they're immigrants to this country, so they grew up in El Salvador. And yeah, I think and I can't go too much into their childhoods, obviously, but I think probably more marked by poverty. And so I think even what they brought into kind of raising their kids, even though we weren't necessarily in poverty, there was still kind of that mentality there somehow. And that even though I wasn't raised in poverty, like that kind of mentality has still, that mindset has a little bit been passed down to me as well. And I've actually never really stopped to consider it until maybe this year, and really been kind of observing my behaviors, my patterns, and thinking about where does this come from, and really realizing that it's kind of like generational, like passed down.
Yeah. Has it
um
created kind of a self, not only a self-awareness, but a place of kind of lack when it comes to money for you when you think about it initially?
I think so. Even a few years back, um, my oldest daughter is 4, and so let's just say 5 years ago or so, I was pregnant, and all the baby things. There's all the baby things, right? And there's a range of prices of all the baby things. But I was really resourceful, and I really like accepted tons of hand-me-downs within my circle of friends. Kind of my husband's and I circle our friends. We were kind of the later last ones, and I guess I have different pockets of friends. So there's like other circle of friends where I was
Mhm.
kind of on the earlier side of having babies, but with this kind of older friend group, we were kind of the last ones to start having kids. And so there were all these things kind of passed down to us, all this great quality baby clothes, great quality like baby carriers and pack and plays. And I was just like, yeah, we'll take it all, anything you got, anything to save me, $1 or a trip to the store or whatever. um and back then I didn't think much of it, and I think it's still fine even to this day, but just as I'm starting to examine where my relationship with money came from, I think those are the ways being resourceful um, comes from this place of just in case there's not enough, I guess. So yeah, a little bit of like a scarcity mindset.
Yeah, and I find that that's definitely an over or undertone or overtone, depending on how you look at it, for a lot of folks, right? Depending on how you were brought up, what your parents or grandparents or whoever raised you brought into the picture. And I think I shared with you, my grandparents were big on like big savers, depression kids. And
Hmm.
so that's where I go because of the memories from them and kind of what they've instilled in me as well. So for your kids, are your kids at the point where now they have any understanding of money, or are they still kind of trying to navigate that being that they're little?
Yeah, yeah, my kids are really young, so they're 4 and 2. I would say the 2-year-old doesn't quite understand. For me, it's just like, don't put that quarter in your mouth. Yeah, and with the 4-year-old, so we recently took a trip to Disneyland for the 2-year-old's birthday, and the 2-year-old didn't ask for it. The 4-year-old probably asked for it more, even though it wasn't her birthday. But I did want to give them some experience. My 4-year-old turned 2 right before COVID, and we traveled to Hawaii for her birthday, like right before everything shut down. It was February 2020. And it was just like a really nice thing that we got to do, even though like 2 is not like a significant age or anything like that, but it was just, I felt good that we were able to do that for her birthday when she was 2. We went to Hawaii, we took these family pictures. It was just a nice trip. And so I think I had this kind of guilt coming up in me of like, okay, now my little one's going to turn 2, like what are we going to do for her on her second birthday? Like we're not going to travel back to Hawaii, like just the situation's not the same anymore. But I was like, but we can go to Disneyland. We can make that happen, and the girls will both enjoy that, even though the little one's not asking for it. Um, what I did not prepare myself for is all the gift shops. And my 4-year-old just being so like, I want it all. Here I am
Yeah.
from the mommy and daddy point of view of like, we're going to Disneyland, like that should be enough. And maybe I haven't been to Disneyland before as a parent. Maybe I just haven't been to Disneyland in a while that I don't know why I didn't think about gift shops, and they're everywhere.
Oh
And
yeah, that's
every other
strategic.
kid is, the model of like the ears and the wands and the princess dresses. There's everything. And I was just like, why did this not cross my mind?
Mhm.
We were with grandma, we were with Nana, and grandpa was supposed to be there as well. And so they ended up buying all the things. Which I would have probably been more firm of how we navigated that. But I guess, with grandma and grandpa, fine. What ended up happening was about like a few days later, because we were down in Southern California, we go to the Long Beach Aquarium and they have gift shops too. So now I was like a little bit more prepared. Being that we were seeing family down in Southern California, my older daughter was like gifted a $5 bill from somebody. And so when we go to the Long Beach Aquarium, I just told her, we can go to the gift shop. You have your own money. You can pick something that you can buy with your money. $5 doesn't go very far to gift shop.
Yeah.
But she bought, you remember those little slap-on bracelets?
Yes, the slap bracelets. Yes.
Yeah, she was able to find that was probably like $3.99 or something. And I was like, you can buy this, pick your color. And she did, and she loves that bracelet so much. And I think she probably appreciates it because she knows she bought it with her own money. So she is, my long-winded response to your question, I think she is starting to kind of develop some understanding of money. And I think going back to what I was raised with, I'm trying to be careful to not really continue to pass down that poverty mindset on her. Because I even heard her say one day, like, oh, that's too expensive. And I'm like, what? I don't remember what it was about, but I'm like, I wonder if she's heard me say that, or if she's heard dad say that, or my mom even, but it's like, obviously I'm not in the position to buy her every single thing she wants, but I also don't want her to just kind of internalize some of these messages that I know I've internalized. I now
Yeah.
know I've internalized.
Yeah, that's super powerful. And again, I mean, you're planting the seeds in a young person, right? So I feel like that's just, man, that's a lot.
It is. And I think, I'm so grateful for the opportunity that this year has provided me in really confronting that. Because I think I was just unaware of it. We were talking about being on autopilot, right? Like I was just living my life with these messages so ingrained in me and not even recognizing how they impacted my behaviors and my decisions and my parenting. And so yeah, I think I have to be grateful that I've confronted it and I'm working on it. It's not by all means, it's not, solved in any way. I still have to kind of challenge myself and challenge my thinking and just being aware of it. And being more cognizant of how I want to parent in terms of teaching her a relationship with money.
No, that's fantastic. And I feel like we're always a work in progress, right? I think when you throw in the towel, like it's probably not a direction you want to go into because we could always do better or different and learn more. And I always stress that too, even with my daughter. She, her money memories are like investing birthday money, Christmas money into a stock, right? And just saving as a little person. And she's 12 now. So for her, it was like when we would go to Disneyland, she would say, I own this place. I'm like, no, you may own like a tiny rock on this place. Like you don't own this place. You have, the fractional tiny amount of this place. Right. So I think for me, it was planting that seed differently than how it was planted to me as a young person too.
Yeah.
And trying to just continuously do better and different, which is exactly what you're sharing.
Yeah.
Well, tying from money memories to money infidelities. I mean, we've heard of them. Some of us have lived through those. We've experienced them. Have there been any that you are open to sharing, whether that be your own or that you've heard or that you think others could learn from potentially?
Sure. Yeah. So I talked about kind of like my family growing up, and we weren't poor. Like my mom was a stay-at-home mom, so my dad's job made him enough money to pay the bills. We didn't go on lavish vacations or anything like that, but we had what we needed. Um, and again, I can't go into the psychology of my dad, but I think what I've also been realizing lately is that he had weird money quirks and money behaviors, and so there was certain things he didn't want to spend on. This isn't an infidelity, but it's a little bit of a trauma. So when I was young, my teeth were really crooked. They were like just everywhere, overcrowding. I had too many teeth, and pretty much my teeth are too big for the size of my mouth. And that's what the dentist had said. And so it just caused like overcrowding. I had to have so many teeth extracted and years of braces. When I went in for my first consultation of braces, I must have been like 10 or 11. The orthodontist quoted my dad a certain amount. In my memory, it's something like $4,000. And I remember my dad going home. I don't remember the words that were said, but I just remember having this feeling of shame and guilt. Obviously, I had no control of how my teeth grew in my mouth. It just was something that happened. But I carried this guilt of like, oh my God, I'm costing my family $4,000.
Wow.
And as a grown-up, that, now that I've like made money and, have kids and all of that, I'm like, $4,000. I wore braces for 3 years. $4,000 over 3 years is not a lot of money. It's to me, it doesn't sound like a lot of money. And I'm like, why did he make such a big deal out of it? And we ended up finding a different orthodontist that maybe charged $3,000. So, okay, fine, that's fine. Go with the cheaper one. I got braces, whatever. But to go along with like the infidelity of it, when it came time for my two younger sisters to get braces, he just opted not to.
Oh,
And yeah, and so they're grown-ups dealing with like dental issues. Yeah, so it feels like a little bit of an infidelity, maybe not towards me, but towards them. And again, 3,000, 4,000 over a period of years is not a lot of money, but for some reason to him, it just wasn't something he wanted to spend on. So I'll share another story. I was about 21, and I was in college, and I was going to be doing a study abroad program. And in preparation for this study abroad program, my mom and I took a trip to Costco, and we just bought like huge containers of like shampoo and like the big thing of tampons, and like it was going to be a semester abroad, so 6 months. And so it was kind of like my mom was preparing me to not have to worry about buying these things while I'm in another country, and just kind of making it as easy for me as possible. So we go to Costco and buy all the things, and it's like a $300 Costco trip, which it's Costco. It's really easy to do, right?
oh, Costco's hard to get out for under $100. I don't know, right? Like it's tough. Everything's in bulk and you need everything.
Yeah. And I was prepping for 6 months of my life. And my dad came home and got mad at her for that purchase. And so again, it's just one of those, and so I don't know if it's an infidelity necessarily, but it's just one of those things where it's a little bit bizarre, that in that same time period, he had gone on an international vacation and spent money on hotels and gifts for people abroad, and $300 to send his daughter abroad and kind of like prep me was too much. So I guess it does feel like an infidelity. It feels like,
Yeah.
why is it okay to spend on that over there and I'm your kid? So yeah, I think it's a little bit of a money trauma to kind of change it up a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think that ties into the word infidelity, right? It could be something little, it could be something not directed at you, but it's something that clearly has made an impact on your life and your experiences with money.
Yeah. I'll just mention the other big money message that I got growing up from my mom. So I've talked a little bit about my dad, but from my mom, the message was to be an independent woman. Don't ever rely on a man. And she was telling me that from her experience of feeling stuck in her marriage, and not having. Mentioned that in the beginning of her marriage, she was a stay-at-home mom while me and my sisters were young, and for quite a long time. But I think she also just felt stuck in that position and with no options because she didn't have her own finances. And so that message, I think it was super explicit, and I took it and I ran with it. And I was like, I need to just be as successful as I can be, and trying to never be in a position where I have to rely on anybody else. So, we were talking earlier about creating that community of support. It kind of all ties back in together, because I'm like, I've lived my life in this kind of self-reliant, independent way, which on the outside people will admire and applaud and, root for. And definitely we should root for them. But going back to that message of everybody needs support. And for me, becoming a mom has really shifted my what? I don't know if it's my thought or just like, the way I kind of perceive the fact that I do need help. Like, I have to be humble and ask for help and receive help, even though I've lived my life for a long time thinking I didn't need anybody's help for anything.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I mean, I appreciate your rawness and your vulnerability. Something else that you had said, like we use in our household, a man is not your financial plan.
Yeah.
Right.
I like
man
that.
is not your financial plan. And to tell, a young tween that, and to try to, really put that in her brain, like, yes, I agree. You want to have, a partner, whatever that partner looks like or is or whatnot, right? You want to have that support from that person or a community as well, by all means, but you also want to be able to stand strong on your own 2 feet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, before we officially wrap up, I always like to ask, are there any tips and tricks that you utilize in your household to save money?
Tips and tricks to save money. I don't know that I'm, any money guru by any means, but this might actually come from my dad with his work at the bank. He opened my first bank account when I was like 5 or so.
Awesome.
And there were just always automatic deposits. And to this day, I keep that on so that I don't even know that it's happening. At this moment, I don't even remember what I have it set to, but I know that twice a month there's withdrawals or transfers, whatever you want to call them, transfers from this account to this account. So putting money into savings. So that's like a saving money tip. But then I guess, like, shopping wise, I do love to search for sales. I kind of mentioned to you that I just like discount shopping. Like,
yes.
I would love to wear like a pair of designer jeans, but if I can find them at TJ Maxx or Nordstrom Rack, like, they're the same designer jeans, but I got them for 60% off.
A girl after my own heart. Like, I teased with you, like, I'm $5 shirt girl, right? I want that $250 shirt for $5 with a coupon. I mean, Could I afford it? Yes. Would I buy it? No, just because that's who I am and I want that deal, right? And it's the thrill of the hunt, I feel like, too.
I totally get a rush from buying something cheaper than it should be. And especially when it's something like nicer too. Like, I'm just like, ooh, I got it for cheap.
The best.
Well, I'll share one. This was at the beginning of last year. I got these, I forget what the full price was. They must have been like $60 slippers. And I got them for like 16. And
nice.
And these slippers are so comfy. I just love them.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for spending some time with us. And thanks everyone who's listening or joining us as well. And we hope that you'll join us again on our next episode of Platinum Talks Wealth.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, Platinum Talks Wealth, please subscribe and share. For more information about Jennifer Rogers Markwell or Platinum Wealth Management, please visit www.platinumwealth.net. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member of FINRA and SIPC. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. The guest speakers and their companies are not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or Platinum Wealth Management.